It's not even. It's not even a spoiler. Like,
Now
I might
we're
have said
live. We're not spoiling nothing. But we'll see. So welcome to the Eric Tries to Art podcast, episode probably 95. Right now I'm here with Morgan, and we'll be joined by a few more people, hopefully, probably in a little bit. We're just talking about winter break being almost over, and I go back to work tomorrow. And I had this whole thing where I was like, I'm just gonna take off Mondays. Like this next year, I work more than full time, but I'm not gonna work on Mondays. Yeah. And so it'll be nice 3-day weekends, and I got some stuff to work from home, blah blah blah. But so this first Monday, I got an email, and we have an all-day staff retreat for my full-time job. So I was like, all right, so I can't start them. And then the following Monday, I have jury duty. It's like it's just hell.
Right. Jury, yeah. I got called in for jury duty, but I use the I'm a student in college card to get out of that. I take advantage of that every time I go to the movies, every time I got jury, all the time. You just take advantage of that for about a good 4 years. Yeah. And maybe even 3 more years with grad school.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah, fuck. I'm glad to be done grad school. Jesus Christ. So you said you're almost done break. You got to pack up and go back to school. Where? I always forget. Where do you go to school?
Yeah, I always forget too. No, it's it's Ferrum College in Ferrum, Virginia. It's like in the middle of nowhere. But it's like America's best kept secret. It's in a little shanty town called Ferrum. It's like
shanty town.
Yeah, it kind of is. It's like a little shack in the woods.
Okay.
Compared to like big universities, like I've gone to places like I walked past George Washington University. Well, actually, no, my internship that I did was at George Washington University for Planet Forward, and I had to write all these wacky articles for it's not stuff like global warming, but I had to write all these crazy articles about like the water drought in California, the plastic bags and shit.
Wacky articles. It's real wacky.
No, they were kind of wacky. I mean, the way I wrote them, it was kind of like journalism. Pretty much, but
what were you? All right, let me ask you this: what were you supposed to be doing?
Basically, they would tell me to go research and do some research on a topic and write an article. And researching and writing for a website or whatever by any other name is journalism.
Yeah.
That's the way we went about it.
So the way that I used to submit stuff to crack.com. And I got a few things on, nothing like front page or anything. But the reason I stopped submitting, years ago, was because it was very clear that what they wanted were researchers, not necessarily joke writers. They had a whole staff of joke writers, so they were just like, we want to have these interesting headlines, but also it's all list based. So we want to get really good research. Information on all that, and I was like, I don't want to do research. So
yeah.
So I didn't. But what you're saying is that basically means cracked as journalism by those.
To a certain extent, yeah. I mean, it's same thing with BuzzFeed and Huffington Post.
Yes, no journalism.
Yeah, exactly. New age journalism. If you post a rant or a blog on Tumblr, that's not journalism. That's just a blog or whatever.
Good sense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just graffiti with punctuation at that point. It didn't make any sense.
Oh, and there is, yeah. You were telling me about the buyback program at your school. You said you made out like a bandit, lots of money. They gave you fair deals.
God, no, hell no. I got screwed badly. It was so bad to the point where I was like, you know what? I would honestly just give you back these 2 books, then take them for 50 cents, because that's just that's just really insulting. I don't know. You can't really, what can you do with 50 cents? Like that and $1 will get me something out of a vending machine.
I think they even upped gumball machines to 50 cents. You can't even. You gotta quarter slot now.
And the thing I always hated about gumball machines, you have to use quarters. You can't use nickels and dimes.
You have a thing for it. The thing I've always hated about gumball machines, I just haven't had the outlet to get this out.
Yeah, exactly.
20 plus years.
You can joke about politics. You can joke about why vending machines hate you. It's just great. You can joke about all sorts of shit.
Hey Pat, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Sweet. All right. So Pat.
It's easier to since I'm using my phone today. It's easier to just kind of keep things running and hear you guys if I don't have a video feed. Don't worry, I'm still devilishly handsome.
Okay.
Can you? We'll see. Pixar didn't happen. Can you see us or no?
Yeah, I can see you just fine.
Okay, so you can see that I am drinking out of my USS Nassau mug.
I am, and you should expect a photo coming within the next month or two.
Nice, yeah. So this isn't stolen valor. No one's gonna come up to me on the street and yell at me.
Oh, well, you've always been a fraud, so why stop?
Yeah, exactly. That's fair.
I just got a sponsorship by Deer Park, as you can see.
You have deer coming at your window, just like, hey, that's cultural appropriation. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't
No, this is getting ridiculous because, one, they're overpopulated, but I guess you could say the same thing about people, so I don't know. You never see, like, a buck and a doe go on, like, with camo fur and start, like, sniping down humans.
That's
like plot twist. Yeah, like because people are doing that enough. Plot twist: the school shootings weren't people; they were like woodland critters that had enough of this like deforestation.
Well, it's gentrification of the forest. You can't have that. You're getting relocated to different ponds and shit. So there's a Calvin and Hobbes like a Sunday strip that was taken off the Sunday paper.
Oh wow!
Where it was like, I forget, I think it was Calvin reading a story to the class or something, or a paper that he wrote about, like, deer fed up with the overpopulation of humans start coming into office buildings with shotguns, and it's, like, graphic. And,
Jesus.
Yeah.
Calvin and Hobbes is always one of those things that, like, oh, sorry, what's up, Patrick?
No, I was just laughing. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah, go for it.
No, Calvin and Hobbes is always one of those things that's like, it's mildly disturbing when you think about it. Like, yeah, it's supposed to be an innocent comic strip with a kid and his, like, tiger doll. But at the same time, you know this kid is going to grow up to be, like, a serial killer.
Oh, yeah, well, he's a lunatic. Well, he's also a sociopath, just to start with, which...
Yeah, exactly. Like, he has no social skills. And he's not, like, at the age that it's appropriate to have imaginary friends. Like you know, ages, like, 5 and hell, I'll even give you 6 if you're a late bloomer. Like, 6 and down is like imaginary friend age, but past that, like this kid is obviously at least like maybe 9 or 10, maybe even 11, 12 possibly, and he's still walking around with a stuffed animal.
Yeah, that's fair. That's probably why I don't have too many friends. Do you I love
switch to action figures at least. Like if you're talking to your G.I. Joe, that's cool. But if you got stuffed plush, I won this at like the Carnival State Fair kind of stuffed animal, then that's wrong. I got to speak out against that.
I'm just picturing
like no social skills, no friends, talks to an animal who talks to him back. Yeah, that's a serial killer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was. Do you think did either of you guys have imaginary friends at any point that you recall?
I still do.
I had a 6-foot-tall lizard who wore a what was cool in 1992, and he hung out with me when nobody else would.
No. I stopped the whole. I'm trying to think. I don't remember any imaginary. I really don't. Like I forget that shit. But like I remember growing up. Like you had like you have the imaginary friend phase, then you have like the stuffed animal phase or whatever the fuck. You have like a teddy bear called Mr. Bear. That's how like bland it is. You don't think outside the box.
Oh, my wife had a fish named Fishy. I was like, all right.
That's reasonable. I know you named this shit, you uncreative motherfucker. And then you have like that action figure phase where it was like up until I was like maybe 14, I collected that. And it's mostly because of the movie merchandise and shit. It wasn't just to collect an unheard of action figure just for the sake of having it. If the new Spider-Man movie came out, I was gonna go with the Spider-Man and Green Goblin action figure or Batman with that kind of shit. It's just like stuff like that.
Guys, I'm right in the middle. Actually, well, I'm closer to Pat than Morgan. But Morgan and Pat, you both have a staunch age difference. So when you say you're getting the the action figures from the Spider-Man movie or the Batman movie, if that were Pat and I growing up, we'd have to get like Michael Keaton Batman action figures.
Oh shit! You got a Christopher Reeves doll hanging up somewhere.
Exactly. Or Christopher Reeves Beanie Baby and some Batman Pogs. 90s were a crazy time. Well, no, You'd have the George Clooney.
It was a weird time, man. There was all that ecstasy flowing around. So many action figures.
Good times. All sorts of paloozas happening. It was amazing. Well, there was. Yeah. Well, we'd have we'd have to have the what's the name, Chris O'Donnell and George Clooney, Batman and Robin action figures with the hard nipples. Thank you, George Schumacher.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, it's a good time.
I love nobody gets his name right. They always say Schumacher, but they never say like Joel Schumacher.
It was Joel, not right.
Yeah, because they say you fucked up Batman, so everybody's gonna butcher your name for the rest of existence. Like the thing is, everybody's giving Ben Affleck or Batfleck so much crap now, but I'm looking at him like, dude, it cannot be any worse than George Clooney or Adam West as Batman.
Well, Adam West, that's a whole other animal.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
A whole
George.
Adam West gets a pass because, well, it's Adam West, but George Clooney, there's no excuse for that.
What were you gonna say, Pat?
Oh, sorry. My phone was coming in because I was in a bit of a dead zone.
Yeah, because I just turned 20 last year.
Yeah.
So I couldn't even do
Pat, you're pushing what, 50?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, sweet. So, you jokers have any New Year's resolutions?
That I'm gonna stick to, maybe. I guess go to the gym. Drink more, love less. Probably like actually go to the gym and do gym stuff.
Why does everybody give a shit about the gym?
Cause it's something I just gotta do. It's really just, I don't know. It's just it'll give me structure and discipline because I did start going to the gym.
Good answer.
Last year.
Really good answer. Yeah.
Last year I did go to the gym, but I fell off because I hate to use the holidays as an excuse. But once you get to like the end of October, you kind of go like, all right, I ate a shitload of candy. But once you get to November and Thanksgiving, that's because November and December, those are like the worst times to get into that. I'm gonna eat healthy. If you weren't already on board with it, it's hard because it's just.
I just like you showing your age with the, you know how you get to the end of October and you've already eaten so much candy.
Yeah.
That's like a little kid thing.
I'm an adult. I can eat candy whenever I want to. I'm gonna wait till October to do it. I don't give a shit. No, I mean.
Oh, Pat, you are breaking up like crazy.
Oh, I thought somebody had the news on in the background.
No.
No, that's me. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, try again, Pat.
Okay. I was going to say, I'm glad that you subscribe to the same workout method that I do, which is you just kind of give up around the end of October, beginning of November, but you lie to yourself for a good period until Christmas.
Yeah. No, and it's not that. It's just that there's more opportunities for me to, because when I go back to school, I hang around athletes and stuff. I don't like go to their games or support them because I don't support me and my theater shit. But I walk around or I hang out with them occasionally. And usually, if you hang out with athletes, he sleeps with dogs, wakes up with fleas. So if you hang around athletes, they're gonna rope you into going to the gym occasionally. And the thing is you go with a gym buddy, or really if you just go by yourself. Really, if you walk on the incline thing on the treadmill, that shows you how little I go to the gym. I don't even know what the thing is called.
Me too.
If you walk on that for about an hour, it's pretty much the equivalent of jogging for 30 minutes or something.
The thing with the foot pad.
Just the incline, right? That's what it's called. Well, I'm never about the effort of it. It just the timing bugs the shit out of me because it's I would rather sprint for 5 minutes and then keel over than jog lightly for an hour. It's just a time thing. I'm the opposite. I would rather do it for an hour than to just pretty much just sputter, cough, and die after about a minute and a half because it makes me feel pathetic. I feel like I have endurance if I can go for an hour. I can't just roll over and die after about less than 10 minutes. Endurance does not. But nah, I have boundless energy, but I get bored so easily. That's why what I used to do when I lift weights a lot would be. I learned a shit ton of free weight exercises and got decent, reasonably sized free weights, and I would just watch TV or listen to music while I did it.
Multitask.
Yeah, I'd much rather do that. Now I'm going back in my head to when I was 20, so it's been a while. But man, I don't know. I just don't know.
I got some road ahead of me. When people talk about 20, it's oh God, I remember when I was 20. It was
that's good though, because you're actually doing shit that I don't know. It's weird because for me, I always with my passions, I always did music, And so I got started young. I have a long, history of doing it. But now that I'm switching over a lot to both with comedy writing and trying to do these podcasts, is like I feel so old and so behind because I'm just like I haven't. But so you actually like the long road in front of you, the fact that you're on the right road for you, it's going to go a long way towards that. Yeah. Also, you'll probably realize that like I don't know what age it'll be. You'll be younger than I was when I realized it, but you'll just be like, oh shit, now I understand how to be funny, or now I understand how to be interesting, or most importantly, now I understand how to be honest. Like that was the big thing. Honesty was the biggest like roadblock to figure that out, and you're gonna figure that out. I'm sure you have on some levels, but you're gonna figure it out a lot sooner than most people if they don't get into like comedy until their mid to late 20s.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I learned so far is to stop waiting on other people. Because like last year, I was going to try to set up. I wasn't liking the way the improv club was doing things. It's not that they're bad. It's just they would do so few shows a semester. Like there was a point we did a show like every 2 weeks, and then there was a point where we did a show like maybe once a month, and then we slowly but surely decreased to like last semester was just like one show in the semester, which wasn't even all that great. You didn't have all the regular show because they had exams, and I was like, that's the worst time to do a show because nobody's going to show up because people are studying, nobody's going to be in it because people are studying, and it was just one of those things where I was like, I wanted to start my own side stand-up thing, and I was asking around, people flaked on me left and right. Either that or they just told me to just figure it off, which I like those answers more than the ones like, yeah, I can do it, and then I never see them again. Yeah.
Well, that ends up happening all the time where you really everybody who's goes to an open mic, let's just I know mostly through music, but let's just say look at it through the lens of comedy. Everybody wants to be a comedian. Everybody who does an open mic says they want to be a comedian. The problem happens when most people hit a small roadblock or have to be proactive on themselves or have to whatever it is, and then it turns out they just want, like in music I always called it rock and roll fantasy camp. It was those musicians who they want to play a show, they want to write music, they want to go into the studio, but they don't want to do anything else that is required of you for being in a band. And so it's like they don't actually want to be a professional musician. They just want rock and roll fantasy camp. They want to feel like a rock star like a handful of days out of the year.
Yeah, they just want to jack off with a guitar in their hands. It's
pretty much, which is not easy because the weight distribution.
With any kind of performance, though, isn't there a certain level of like success that comes with? I guess the best way to put it is not giving a shit. Like you kind of check your ego at the door, and then you're like, look, I can either get booed off the stage or I can have the best show ever, but I just need to do this, and I don't care how it turns out.
Yeah. Well, you're right. That's the mindset that you really need in order to actually get over those humps. To me, I actually was looking at it from a different angle. You're correct. I was just thinking about it from a more seasoned musician down the line. They end up not giving a shit because they've done it so many times that they're bored out of their mind with it. And that's like when you know you can perform well usually, is when you're so bored and you hate. It's like Aaron Barrett from Real Big Fish, who's like, if any of my fans knew the things going on in my head during a concert, they'd hate me. He's like, I haven't thought about what I was doing on stage in the better part of a decade.
Your mind just wanders. It's one of those things where it's like people say, how can you be physically present and you're mentally absent somewhere else? It's like, it's pretty easy.
You've done it so many times.
Obviously, you've never had an 8 a.m. class.
I never showed up to that was the one. I had an 8 a.m. class once. It was the only one I didn't I ever skipped. I was such a good student. I never skipped class, but that one. The only times I didn't skip it was when I just pulled all-nighters and then woke up and then went to bed.
You're like, I'm awake anyway, so I might as well go.
Yeah, that's the only time I ever made it.
There have been some classes where I know I'm going to sound like a total nerd or dweebo or whatever, I don't care.
Too late.
Yeah, I know I'm going to sound like a total nerd when I say this, but there's some classes where I made an effort not to miss them because I actually did like the class, or the way the professor would break something down. It was like, okay, they're explaining to me way better than I can learn outside of class, and sometimes just the professor sucks and you have to do it outside of class so you can get a better understanding of it. But this is one of those fix my screen. But it's one of those things where it's like that class, I made an effort not to miss. Even if I was sick and they told you not to come when you were sick, I had to sit in the back somewhere and go, yeah, I got it. But that class was at 8 o'clock in the morning. Though. That was my only problem. Like, I loved that class. I hated the fact that it was at 8 o'clock in the morning. It should piss me off.
Yeah. No, I can't do that. This is so...
Nah.
Pat, how is your volume going in and out so badly?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I said your volume's going in and out. Say that again. I can hear you better now.
I thought that 8 a.m. classes were just something you would sign yourself to because this was, prerequisite.
That's true. Sometimes, a lot of times, they are those prerequisite classes that are just like you have to. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I hate those prerequisite classes. Or I hate when prerequisite classes don't classes you have to take don't count towards your actual credits.
Yeah. That's the worst.
I always hate that where it's like I have to take this class to take this class. The class I have to take that class doesn't count toward anything. I hate that shit.
This is so tangential, but the one 8 a.m. class I took, I had a guy in my freshman dorm suite was also in that class, and he was one of the worst people I've ever met. Like completely harmless, but just obnoxious. And he one time I was taking the train from Baltimore to North Carolina to go back to school. And in the middle of this train ride, I got my headphones on, and all of a sudden, I get a slap in my face, a physical slap in my face, and I hear this guy Charlie's voice go, "Sup titties?" I don't know what the hell that means, but he said that and slapped me in front of about 100 other people on a train. And anyway, so his name is Charlie, and our professor, who English was not her first language, she somehow always butchered his name. And it was just Charlie, but she always butchered it. And one time she called him Charizard.
Oh,
Charizard.
He was so fucking angry. And
he really was burning up like Charizard.
Yeah, exactly. He was so angry, and I'd never really seen him get mad before. He was just kind of that, You guys watch Venture Brothers?
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah. He's Dermot. To a T. He looks like him, he sounds like him, he acts like him. It's the same human being. It's kind of crazy. It's that guy. And he would always tell stories about how he totally beat up a bear. And I used to do things where I knew that if I kept asking him questions and getting really excited about his stories, I could get him into deeper and more nonsensical lies. So I'd keep asking him, then what happened? I bet you didn't jab his eye out with your thumb. And he's like, that's exactly what I did. And I was like, oh my God.
So he wasn't kidding. He was legitimately delusional to the point where he actually was really trying to sell you on this.
I think so. I think without being pushed, he just kind of sold the general lies. But it's like, you ever, you're a comic. You ever, when you got a room full of people on stage, you're not cracking up, and then you just feel that urge to keep making jokes, that kind of thing, keep that ball rolling. I think that's how he was with the stories. And when he thought he had a captive audience, he was just trying to entertain. That's what I think. I don't know how delusional he was, but he's definitely full of shit. Yeah.
I think I've found that I went to an open. Well, I've gone to quite a few open mics, like I promised I would. It's just it didn't have the whole. And to some of them, I got recognized. You're like, hey, it's Julian or whatever the fuck. When people call you by your last name, that means you really stuck in here. But I went to people recognize me. People who I barely recognize me, which I guess is kind of cool.
Don't undersell it. That is very cool.
No, I'm not trying to undersell it, but
it probably won't happen for another 3 or 4 years again. So
yeah, exactly.
Enjoy it.
So no, I said but there's also there's a caveat for that. There's a catch-22.
Yeah.
So I go up there. It's it's one of those things. I remember going certain places. And people would say, hey, man, look, we really want you to come back here. Or I heard, I was talking on the phone with some other people. They're like, hey, man, it'd be really cool if we went to this open mic. Or I got some Facebook messages. Hey, man, it'd be really cool if you came here. And I'm getting a lot of people say, hey, come here, do this, do that. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I show up. And maybe a few people are like, hey, what's up, man? But most of the people there are just like,
I've been to open mics where I've had my past guests on the podcast performing who didn't remember who I was.
Wait,
Like, all right.
That sucks.
Yeah.
No, but it was like one of those things. Like you hyped up my appearance so much. Like they're like, no, man, I know I had to promote my own appearance, which is kind of what I did. So, but I was like, it was around the holidays. I'm like, look,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna be the guy to say, hey, screw your family, come see this like 2 days after Christmas. I'm just like one of those.
But the other thing is right now, and this is the beauty of comedy that I think music doesn't get, is that with music, you're always building up your brand, your audience, your fan base, whatever. Yeah. With comedy, there is a much steeper learning curve where you're doing open mics for so long and you're just getting good at even just doing 5 to 10 minutes for years that, like, for you have... It's almost like you don't even want to be building up a fan base right now. You want to just get as much stage time and get better and better and better.
Yeah, I'm trying to put in my 10,000 hours. That's
exactly. So you don't need to, like. So right now, when it comes to like getting recognized or even promoting shows, as long as you're getting stage time, it doesn't matter. It's just getting, and that's kind of how I felt like. I promote these podcasts as much as, like, you know, on my social media stuff, but I don't promote it like I promote bands I'm in, where I go all over the place to promote, because I know that I'm just trying to get good at this. I'm just trying to get these things up to par, get my guests like on all like a good level for all of us, and then start like promoting when I think that the product is quality. And if, like with this podcast, if fans trickle in, which has happened, great. Yeah. But that's
you're
not
gonna
the
get
goal.
People that you're gonna get, like I've got some people back at school that are like, hey, this guy's funny enough, and I guess it's nice to have like a little nugget of a fan base, so that way, you know, you can, if you have a bit of a following.
It keeps you going, because otherwise you're like, I don't know, shit. How about you, Pat? You got a lot of fans.
No, I don't. But I was wondering that, like, with comedy, is it sort of like music in that you can build a fan base by doing a lot of open mics on, like, after the show with a demo reel or something like that, like just handing
out your tape.
Yeah, just be like, hey, you know, if you guys like this, please give me a listen, you know, check out my website. Or is it just like, hey, look, I'm going to be at these shows, I'm going to be at this club, I'm going to be doing 5 minutes, please come out, have a few drinks, tell me what you think.
Yeah. We need much more seasoned veterans to answer that. But from what I understand, like, I believe that musicians have a lot to learn from comics about how to make art, like how to recreate something, how to continue working on something. Because a lot of bands just make a song and that's the song.
Little bands just came out there. You're like, I think they can learn a little bit from comics about how to make art.
Clarify, I'm a musician, not a comic, so I'm insulting myself. I'm throwing myself under that bus. And I think I did learn a lot about how to, you know, make good music from how comedians work on their material. But also I think, and this is where I'll shit all over comedy, comedians need to learn everything from musicians about how to market.
Okay, that makes sense.
Are comics bad at promoting themselves? It's like they rely on the industry, or at least, and by the way, when I say industry, I don't mean like the top of the industry. I mean the industry of comedy, where if you don't need a fan base as long as you get in and are liked by general crowds of people who come, whether they remember who you are or not, whether you it's like you don't have to sell tickets, you just have to perform well, and then club owners like you, and then you can do the road or other comics take you on. That kind of stuff doesn't really happen with a band unless the band has a fan base of their own. Like, it's all about putting, you know, selling tickets in the end. And so with comedians, I feel like they kind of can rely on just getting, if you get good, you can get kind of carried up higher to a better spot, and then develop a fan base. But there are other things that can help you along in that aspect that comics don't tend to do. And like Pat just said, that's like band stuff 101. You pass out free demos or, you know, cards with your website on them for your band. You go and meet people. You kind of make these connections with like fans or whatever. And then comedians will just go like, they don't even know what dates they're doing until like the day before. Yeah. Like nobody promotes shit. I don't know. It's
a bunch of invitations to go, and then you get like nobody knows the notification until like the day before. Like you got an invitation. Oh shit, that's me, and then you gotta like skedaddle on.
Yeah, you have to send yourself an invite to your event, and you put in maybe.
Yeah, it seems like there's more of a sort of a social network to comedy than there is to music.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say in 10 minutes.
Because it almost seems like, with comedy, if you're not doing so, and of course this I'm basing this off my 0 years of experience doing comedy or music, but it seems like if you're a comic, and even if you're not doing as well as another comic you work with, as long as you keep associating with that one comic that's doing really well, or that group of comics that's doing really well, you can keep working with them and sort of, I don't know, improve your career footing than if you just did it on your own. Whereas with music, it seems like it's all like, hey man, this is our band and we're doing the time.
Yeah.
It's nobody else. Screw that other band that's doing better than us. We're going to do better than they are if we just work hard.
Yeah. Well, and by the way, Pat, I could hear everything you said. That was great. But based on the volume that's happening with your in and out, I'm going to assume that you have your phone on some kind of yo-yo-like contraption, and you're letting it go down to the ground and then back up and down to the ground.
Or maybe you're like speaking into a fan and then just like throwing the.
I got the headphones in. Is that better?
Oh, that is better. Crystal.
Yeah. I just shoved them deeper into my ear.
Are they like Beats by Dre? Because those things were like.
No, these are Beats by Shrek.
Like the phrase in Game of Thrones, Song of Fire and Ice and Fire.
More like Frey, like that's what the wires are doing.
Oh, gotcha. So there's something that I want, other people's feedback and opinion on this, but definitely something I want to talk about just in case I ever get murdered and police need a record to point at a suspect. So I don't know if I've talked about this with you guys on the podcast, but I've definitely brought it up in the past for just to tell the story. But I've got a dude across the street from me who, I mean, is just blatantly a drug dealer, which is fine. I'm pretty sure it's just weed. Ain't no thing. That said, he also, I live in a nice little suburban neighborhood, and he clearly wants to turn it into like Thug City. And I've like I said on this podcast, I've told stories about the crazy shit I've seen, like cops raiding his house, people coming to his house with baseball bats and yelling at him, all this stuff. And so, but so I never had any issues with him until twice now he's parked in front of my driveway, and so then I'd have to get him to move his car, and I guess it's fine, but he's all he acts all pissed off about it. But I don't know, it's hard to tell because the dude always looks pissed off at everyone all the time.
He's got resting bitch face.
Yeah, pretty much. He lives with his mom too. It's just a fucking suburban thug wannabe, whatever. But my worry is always that he's just gonna get, because sometimes, so my dog barks a lot, and he every once in a while he'll see me taking my groceries in. He'll be sitting in his window a couple floors up, and he'll just start barking at me. And I'll look up, and he'll just clearly be just stoned out of his mind. And I'm just like, what happens if this dude gets really fucked up and wants to mess with my house or something? I don't know. I get scared about that kind of stuff. But so because it's
contact paranoia.
Yeah, right. So, yeah.
Paranoia is always a little bit of paranoia is good for you every now and then. Just a little bit, not a whole lot. A little bit of paranoia goes a long way. Because there's some situations
man.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It keeps you alert. It keeps you constantly analyzing you. Just like I said, a little bit of paranoia is a good thing, especially.
Just say weed keeps you alert and aware of yourself.
That's not what I said, but okay, yeah. I don't know. I can't. Weed is something that I don't have anything against it. I just don't do it really. Not because I'm afraid of getting. It's just because paranoia and illegal activities don't mix. And I'm already suspicious by nature. So if I see something that's doesn't add up, I'm already gonna be like, oh no. But it just amplifies it. It makes you connect dots that just aren't there.
That's actually a really good way to put it. Well, so
no, it really is. When you watch I was watching Shrek, and I was coming up with some communist theory based on Shrek 2, and I was just like, I can't.
Well, so Jesus. Well, so this dude is more recently I've noticed that, and this has only happened 2 or 3 times. The dude smokes cigarillos outside of his house, and every once in a while I'll see like a cigarillo butt thing, the little like plastic, whatever, in my yard, but close enough to my house that it was like the dude had to be standing like at my front porch to put it there. And so that was like, it wasn't that he was lit, because I seen the dude like pull up, eat like a thing of McDonald's, and just chuck the trash out of the car into the street, and then walk into his house 2 feet away. So like the dude litters. I'm not like shocked about that, but it was more this guy has been on my property very clearly, and like that kind of thing makes me uncomfortable and very
people
angry.
who don't know boundaries are apt to cross them.
Yeah, that's true. Well, so I keep thinking. So with that, I kept thinking like I was like, I don't want to confront him, because I'm like, this guy's just doing. He's like, the high school bully who, I don't know if you guys had this experience, but I remember in middle school there were a pair of brothers who would like bully kids. They're in jail now, or they're in and out of jail. Maryland case search them every once in a while. It's really funny. Yeah, mostly. But they, I always thought that they just like fucked with me until the last day of 8th grade, when a bunch of like people kind of got together and were like hunting them down in the hallway. And I was like, oh, they do that to everyone, but they isolate people and do that. So they make everyone think they're their own
They do it to
target.
me more.
Yeah, no, it turned out they were doing it to just everybody equally. But
They're equal opportunity assholes.
yeah, pretty much. But I never knew it. And I think that's how this guy is, where it feels like, oh, this guy's targeting me. But I bet he does this shit to everybody else. Like, that's why all of his neighbors have cameras on their outside of their houses, and I think it's just for him. It's like this one-man wrecking crew. Anyway, but so...
does anybody have
anyone have what?
cameras out, like,
yeah, they know for
this guy to pull this kind of bull?
Yeah, pretty much. I told you the cops have raided his house before. I was getting ready, like one morning for work, and I hear like boom, 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 and cops busted through his door. And I was watching through the window, putting my tie on, and they went right to his room, not the master bedroom. Went right to his room and started going through his shit. And I was
so
like,
they knew where to look too.
Yeah.
That's the funny thing.
Yeah.
They've been there before, or they.
Or I think his mom might have called the cops. I have theories. Anyway, so I keep thinking about, like, I'm not going to confront him, but if every once in a while I'm like, if that motherfucker says something, I'm probably going to say so. I don't know.
It's going down.
And so I keep having, like, these fantasies of, like he would need to be near on my property. I wouldn't instigate, and he'd have to instigate it. But I'm like, I'm sitting here, like, prepping my, like, Robert De Niro speech. Like the one he gives in every, like, so it'd be like, kind of like that, where it's like if he's saying anything, I'd be like, in my head, in my fantasy, my vivid fantasy, I'm like watering my lawn or something, preferably not in winter, and just so I'm like
suburbanite.
So I got something. Basically, it's so I'm doing something else. It's like I'm not even focused on him. I got this other thing I'm focused on, so I can, like, keep looking back to that and just be like, hey, so come here a second.
Oh,
so I was like, so let me ask you this. Do you like spiders? They bug you? Spiders bug you? I was like, what? Like, spiders, they bug you? Spiders bug me. But, here's the thing. I see them in my house. They're not much of a threat, so I let them hang out a little bit, But my wife hates spiders. She always hates them. She even though if they're not poisonous, she still feels like there's a chance. So, you know what she does? It's a real shame. She tells me, can you go take care of that? You know what I do? Take care of it right away. Kill it, wipe it off like it's nothing. You know why? Because even though they don't bug me, if they're a threat to her, then you know what? I got to handle it. You know what I'm saying? You understand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, see those cigarillo butts you've been throwing? See, that just bugs me. Kind of bugs me, But I don't really mind it because it's a small thing. I pick it up, whatever. But my wife sees that as a little bit of a threat. You follow me?
It's like a little Tarantino-esque, like, this is more like you say right before you shoot somebody. Like, I love Tarantino's, I like, the Hateful Eight was kind of cool, but, like, I don't know, it was like, he always has these monologues where, dude, we get it, you write good dialogue, but you don't have to go into, like, some self-reflective tangent right before you shoot somebody. Almost
like everything Eric just said, I can imagine Harvey Keitel saying.
Yeah, I could see Michael Madsen saying that, like, in the next one, Sam Jackson says like right before they shoot somebody, like which is always the funniest thing. Like where it's like once they start slowly zooming in on somebody's face and they're like going into this little tangent of something in any other movie, like in a comedy, this would be like the most mundane thing ever.
Yep.
Since you know it's about to go down. Like, you know, I was walking the dog one day. It takes a shit on the other guy's lawn. That's cool. I take shits. They take shits. Whatever. But like you can tell they're about to just go off. It's about to go down. Like in Inglourious Bastards, before the bar shootout, they like having like a discussion about Scotch versus beer, and I was like, okay, see this. I have this conversation all the time. Worst thing that ever happens is I get like I don't know, I got to pick up the tab. That's about it.
Well, there's like I said, part of the reason I was talking about that was, you know, in case I ever get murdered in the middle of the night. Because when I came home yesterday from getting the groceries, and I don't think it was him, I think it was someone else in his house, maybe a friend of his, was just like staring out the window. Like at me. I assume at me. I don't know what else to be staring at. And just kept staring. I get out of my car, they're still staring. I pick up the groceries, still staring. I walk in my house, I turn around, they're still staring. And I assume that it was because I was parking close to one of their cars. I don't know if it was one of their cars, but that's what I'm assuming. Yet my fantasy football season's over. Stop reminding me, ESPN. Jesus Christ. So they but anyway, so they kept staring and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with, I don't know, it creeps me out. But like so here's my other fantasy is that if dude ever breaks into my house and tries to do something to me, I don't know, I'm paranoid. To like you said, contact paranoia. But like I think the thing I'm gonna say, because the truth is like, yeah, if you know kill somebody who you have no connection with, it's hard to like find a motive, because finding the motive is the biggest way to find like the killer.
Yeah.
I think my thing that I'll yell.
Wasn't Alfred Hitchcock Strangers on a Train where it's like they switch up on the people they wanted to kill?
Oh, that makes that makes perfect sense. Exactly.
Yeah.
So you won't really trace it. But here's the thing: is that I think that's if the dude busts in with an axe or whatever, I don't know. Then I'd just be like, I've talked about you on the podcast. And hopefully we'll stop him in his tracks for a second, and I'll be like, listen, everybody knows that I have described this scenario, and you're the first person they're going to go to. The amount of stand-up comedians I've told about you, and, it's all over YouTube. There's nothing you can do about it. Just walk away. That'll be my yeah. There you go. So that'll be evidence. He lives at if you know what, I won't give the address because I don't want to give my address, but all you have to know if I get murdered and you wanna find your first suspect. It's the house across from mine that ends in 6. The address ends in 6. That's the one you're going to go to. All right. So, do any of you guys have neighbors that make you feel like you might get murdered in the middle of the night?
Actually, I have like classmates at college that kind of do.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't. Shit, I don't even know, man. Because it could be anything. But I think one of the biggest gimmicks with me is I have like, well, I'm wearing like just a plain white T-shirt now, but I have the graphic T-shirts. I have one with the poop emoji, and it says like shit happens, but it just has that poop emoji and it says happens, so you can fill in the blank. I have one.
I'm excited for you to grow out of that, by the way, but keep telling me.
Oh, fuck that. Hey, I think it's funny. I don't care. I think it's hilarious.
It's not a phase, Mom.
It's not a phase. It's who I am. God, if I had like a little emo mop on my head to flip. No, I was wearing
emoji.
Yeah. I was wearing this one where it had like a starving Ethiopian kid on it. I don't know if you've seen it. It had a starving Ethiopian kid on it, and it said ribbed for her pleasure.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, you told me about that. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I support that one. That's insane. That is so weird and horrible.
But it's funny as shit. I think it's funny. And I was walking around the school with that. And this is when I was still an RA. And apparently nobody had a problem with these because, all that freedom of speech horse shit or whatever the fuck. Nobody had a problem with it. There's a picture of me in the school paper with that shirt on.
Yeah.
So, like, it wasn't a problem then, and I didn't assume it was going to be a problem now. So I was walking over, and apparently some girl, and I knew exactly who it was, I just couldn't prove it. It was one of those cases where it's like, I know exactly who it is, I just can't prove it. It's like that Bill Cosby case. So they put like a part of the student handbook, like the whole, the dress code, not a dress code, but like the whole appropriate, not a, something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly, but I wasn't really in a violation of it because technically I was wearing stuff that covered me up and it didn't have profanity on it or anything like that. They had they like it was almost like Martin Luther nailing the 99 thesis to my door. Almost. I know exactly who did it. And they had like a little thing under it said, in all caps, said, "Please do not wear this shirt ever."
Just that one.
Never wear this shirt ever again. And I knew so. And then later, I got like accused. They tried to make a big case out of it by that same person.
Jesus.
Yeah. And it was like, well, it could be considered sexual harassment for wearing the shirt. I was like, you're gonna
wait, what?
Yeah, as I said, like you're gonna try to get me on sexual harassment for wearing clothes. That is like that doesn't add up. And they're like, well, it says rip for her pleasure. I was like, huh?
Yeah, you know, like the condom ads that is playing off of. Also, I like how this person told you to remove your clothes by force, and they're suing you for sexual harassment.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I didn't think about that. That was the case I could have used, but I was like, I was sitting there, maybe I had to go to the office, and what they did, this is the way I got off. This is like some Ferris Bueller shit right here that I did. This is like some Harvey Birdman attorney at law stuff I did. Like, you're wearing this T-shirt. This is a rip for our pleasure. And what I did was I walked up. I didn't say shit. I walked. There was a bowl of condoms and lube on the side because they just give shit like that away. Grabbed a handful and went like this. I was like, how come I get with it, but you can just give this shit away?
I can. Yeah, I can't wear this, but I can wear this.
Yeah, I can. You know that was the little tip of the head. Yeah.
Well, speaking of social justice warriors. Which is what all this podcast comes down to. I don't know. I think I teach at a school that just had a major kind of protest and the interim president had to answer to a list of demands that were all so vague that I feel like they were just like, sure, no problem, because there's no way to tangibly enforce any of them.
They're up to interpretation, so
sure, why not? I don't know. The thing with that, I feel like a lot of them are bullies in the sense that, if you notice, they never target, Bill O'Reilly, because Bill O'Reilly doesn't give a shit what they think. They target, liberal comedians.
They target people who make laughter for a living, who are, who don't really have any political influence, so they're not really in a position to change this.
And I think that's why they target them, because it's if you call a certified racist... I don't know where you get the certification, probably Missouri, but you get a certified racist. If you call them a racist, they don't care. They're like, yeah. But if you call someone who is not racist a racist, they will be like, no, not defend themselves and try to get back to your
some of my best friends are. How come you have to quantify the amount of blood? Yeah.
But that's who they target. They try to get people in trouble. They try to get liberals in trouble, basically, because I think they're bullies, and if you hit a bully back, they back down. And they know that these people won't hit them back because they're already on their side. And I think that's that's what's offensive to me. But
or worse yet, if you hit a bully back, you look like the bully. You see it,
it's true.
I know this goes back to the old schoolyard days of nobody saw who started the fight; they just saw who threw the first punch or something like that.
Yeah, the last punch. Yeah. I never really gave too much of a shit about it as it was going. I've always been pretty politically correct myself. I am the person who calls my friends out when they say something asshole-ish, or I'm the guy who guys hate because I'm always stop catcalling those people. Please stop doing that. That's pretty fucked up.
I'm not doing it because to save face for the feminists. I'm doing it because I'm like, dude, this doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. That's also true. It doesn't
you're
work.
Going fishing and you're saying, hey, fish, why don't you get on this? Actually, no. That made it sound way more aggressive than it needed to be. I'm not saying throw a fishing hook in her mouth or whatever. Okay.
Listen, if you're gonna attract girls that way, you're gonna need a bigger boat. That's all I'm saying. And if you look behind you, that's what it says on your calendar.
Hey, I got a new calendar.
So I never really was bugged by it too much until even the most extreme examples of the whole hashtag kill all men stuff, I just kind of laughed it off. But but about a year or two ago, I really started analyzing and getting angry over that movement, the whole overly PC movement, is when I read an article, and this is very telling of me and my personality. that this is what got me invested in that, in being angry about that cause, is there was a BuzzFeed article on all the ways that the character Chandler from Friends was problematic, and that made me so angry, because the whole thing was like he's a raging homophobe whose transgender father disgusts him and blah 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 blah, and in my head I was like, yeah, the character's ignorant because he has rich parents who ignored him and who were just like popping pills and cheating on each other and sent him off to boarding school for 12 years. And like, yeah, the dude came out of that a little bit fucked up. And I was like, that's the point of that character. That's the point of characters, by the way, is to not be perfectly well-rounded individuals. And the fact that it was...
Especially in a sitcom.
Yeah, no, it was
like
just...
If it were an actual, if it weren't like your average Cheers or Archie Bunker, like, yeah, Archie Bunker would have been so, like, outlandishly offensive if it weren't like a comedy. And well, Archie Bunker was more of a straight up satire, but
yeah. Well, a lot of people, well, when you take things at face value. Oh, and that's the other thing is there are a lot of studies done, and this is where all my psych stuff comes in. There's a lot of studies being done on social cues and reading context of both facial expression and tone of voice in young people today who grew up with like all the technology and the social media communication. And comedians have made examples of this too, where they'll do jokes with sarcasm at a college, and people will think they're being literal because they don't understand sarcasm because they just haven't heard it very much.
They turn into Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. That's what happens.
Yes, exactly. And so I'm wondering if there's a correlation between this rise in people getting offended and people not understanding context because they don't get the clues from it because they didn't have that kind of social interaction growing up. And I also work with people on the autism spectrum, and one of the key things with that is not reading social cues, not getting tones of voice, not inferring meanings from social situations. And the reason behind that is mostly environmental. They may start out with a lack of social motivation that leads to all these social skill deficits, but you can still get those same social skill deficits from other sources. Like maybe if the majority of your communication is online, is text-based, and you don't have facial recognition, you never build those skills as much as you would have otherwise. I don't think it's outlandish to think that similar symptoms could arise, and that could make sense why there is this literalness and this rigidity in the average college student, from what I can tell.
Yeah, well, I think maybe a certain level of ignorance plays into it too, because if you're familiar with a certain source or the outlandishness of something that you're reading or hearing, it's understandable for the average reasonable person to think, like, this is probably such bullshit that I can laugh at.
Yeah.
But when you have a person that is either so ignorant or just dumb that they don't understand, like, just basic context of what they might be reading or hearing. Like, if I'm listening to a comic on stage talk about something, that is reason enough for me to think, like, whatever he's saying, if it's outlandish enough, he probably doesn't mean it.
Yeah.
Or if I'm reading something from The Onion or Duffel Blog, you know, it's the kind of thing where it's like, dude, use the context clues, because otherwise if you come back and you try and cite that, you're going to look like a moron when you try and use Jerry Seinfeld or Patton Oswalt as a scientific source.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like somebody trying to use A Modest Proposal as like a legitimate source for what to do about like global warming or something.
Exactly.
Not like as a satirist, or we could come up with crazy solutions like eating all the bacon. Okay, that if you use that to decide, okay, that's fine. But if you said, or what we could do is eat those freeloaders.
I love how it's called A Modest Proposal. That's so funny. Well, that's and to play a little devil's advocate though, and I think this is worth noting for people who don't have a long history of being a part of or paying attention to comedy, because most people who know comedy know it from a handful of specials they caught on TV randomly. They're not like as obsessed as we all are. But with that, in the last handful of years, comedy and philosophy have kind of merged, where comedians maybe decades ago were absurdists mostly, and then a few decades back, if we're looking at like the observationalism of the 80s and 90s, and then if you look at more the post 9/11 comedy, you had a lot of political voices mixed in with comedy. And nowadays, it feels like comedy and philosophy are merging, with people like Louis C.K. and Bill Burr kind of doing their thing, where it really ends up being philosophy-based, and the jokes come on top of that. And so, I don't know, so it's possible that because actual points are being made on stage, that some younger people could get confused of, oh, this is supposed to be a kind of a rally for our beliefs, and then every once in a while you laugh. Kind of like a Daily Show type thing. Like where it very much is like everything that these people are saying are either directly they mean it, or, you know, the correspondents who clearly mean the opposite of what they're saying.
Yeah.
And then, but there's jokes involved. So maybe if they think the Daily Show is news, oh, it's news, but with jokes on top of it.
Yeah.
And Crack.com for a while was, and maybe it still is, I haven't paid as much attention recently, but for a while it was like Wikipedia with jokes on top of it. You're just learning interesting stuff, and then there's jokes. So if that's what people think comedy is now, then that makes sense why they may get completely thrown by a joke that is very offensive, because they're so used to being like, no, I'm supposed to agree with all this stuff.
Yeah. I think it also comes down to the fact of, like, I think people have this, it's almost like a hypersensitivity, really, where and I was joking, I already told you, if I ever did something called No Such Thing as Middle Ground, address that, where it's like, you have people that always go around with a victim mentality. They go around looking for insults, where they'll kind of just, they'll see through, they'll go in with a fine-tooth comb and kind of look for an insult to the transgender community, or, like, you know, Hispanics, black, or whatever. Or they'll find
the
something. Spaniards, yeah. No, the ones who killed all the Incans and shit. Yeah. No, they did some genocides too. I looked up in the history book that may or may not have been written by the victor. And
one of the things you said was right.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, but
dude, I want to see a history book written by the loser, and that somehow made its way throughout time, and it's all passive aggressive, and it's like, yeah, we could have had him, but we just didn't feel like it.
Yeah. Like I was even saying, like, you know, so if I get like an 89.4, you won't round it up to a 90, but you give Christopher Columbus day off because he discovered a land that was already discovered or whatever. Like, you talk about a total misstep. Yeah, sure.
All right, so I'm going to wrap up because I got another podcast to do. And thank you guys so much for coming on. I had a lot of fun talking to you guys, and I took a couple of weeks off, and so it's nice to be back and up and running again.
Well, thanks for having me, man. I'm sorry that my phone was kind of buggy.
Hey. It's okay. I'll see you guys. Pat, I'll talk to you more about this later, but I recorded an EP with the guitar you gave me the other day.
Great.
Yeah, I'm excited to put that shit out. All right, sweet.
For you.
So where can we find your guys on websites or Twitters or anything? Morgan first, then Pat.
Okay, well, you can find me on Twitter as Genius Morgan J. Genius with a J. You can find me on Facebook as Morgan Julian. You can find me on Snapchat, Genius Morgan J. All that jazz. Good. That's the plug.
Pat, what do you got?
I actually don't have anything to promote except when you're doing something, Eric, so I'm just going to be a shill for you.
All right, sweet. Well, then
you can go to the Eric Tries Too Hard podcast.
Yeah, erictriestoohard.com, and you can also go to erictriestoohard.bandcamp.com. You can find all my acoustic stuff, and you can find Pat's acoustic EP that I put up there, too. Some fun covers that Pat did that are gorgeous, and he sings a lot better than I do, and so you should listen to him more than me. All right, well, I will catch everybody later. Thank you guys again, and I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
All right.
See ya.